Hello my wonderful, beautiful friends guys, welcome back to r/EntitledPeople, where people truly believe that they're better than everyone else and they can do what they want, when they want. And in today's episode, we're talking horrible bosses yet again, guys, your favorite. We've got bosses getting fired, getting demoted, forcing employees to work to the point of passing out. It's wild. I hope you enjoy the stories, don't shake your heads too hard, and as always, you can send or link your post to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I work in a small office. There's 5 of us and our entitled boss, who I'll call Karen. Now, my boss is textbook entitled and narcissist. She's an a-hole. The woman's mean, rude, condescending, and all around an unpleasant person to work for. We all put up with her because the job market sucks and we need to keep food on our table, but that's beside the point. That said, this happened about a week ago. One coworker had her 40th birthday party on a Saturday. It was one of those painting places where everyone watches the instructor and paints along while sipping on wine and casually hanging out. Of course, our boss, being a horrible person to be around, wasn't invited, but she found out. One of our coworkers is friends with her on Instagram, and I guess Karen happened to see the post. She was like a pit viper all Monday morning, being extra mean, rude, and insulting. She was showing everyone mistakes they made months ago and taking personal digs at each of us, and even called the birthday girl fat. She full-blown yelled at me for not answering the phone fast enough. Around lunch, she finally corners me while I was microwaving my leftovers, and she asked me why so-and-so didn't invite her to the birthday party. I told her it wasn't my party and to ask her, but if she's pissed she wasn't invited, she doesn't get to treat everyone horribly all day and act like a 5-year-old kid. So after asking everyone in the office why we think she wasn't invited, she finally confronts the birthday girl. She asked her why she wasn't invited, and she got told, "You're mean, you're hard to be around, and I don't like you. That's why. The weekend is my only time away from you." Ever since then, I'm actually surprised that she's putting an effort to be a bit nicer, albeit still an unpleasant a-hole to work for. Talk about an entitled a-hole boss who can't seem to take a hint, right? Like, do some people not know they're being unpleasant and an a-hole? Or is this an entitled narcissist thing where they just expect invitations to everything? And seriously guys, I don't know what answer Karen was expecting though. Like, what would she have needed to hear to help her sleep at night? I'm just glad to know OP's coworker's response to Karen actually made a small difference in her attitude. Maybe she's hoping to get invited to the next birthday party. So just after high school, I worked at a fast food joint. But not for very long, as you'll soon find out why. The location I worked at was near a stadium, so whenever there's events on such as football, rugby, boxing, or concerts, we get busy. Now, working in a fast food chain, it gets warm quickly, and when it's crowded and warm and I get stressed, I tend to black out due to my health condition. So this particular day, there's a football game going on, and the store's getting busy. There's a lot of customers and a lot of staff. We're serving customers and getting orders sorted fairly quickly. I'm in the middle of serving a customer when I can feel myself starting to black out. So I turned to the shift supervisor and I told her what's happening and asked if it's okay to get a drink. She said yeah, and took over serving the customer from me. As I'm having my drink though, the manager comes over and tells me not to leave a customer mid-order. I begin to explain what's happening, that I might pass out and that I need a small breather, but she won't take no for an answer. She literally told me to get back to serving the customer or to clock out. So I go back to taking orders and serving customers when I can feel myself blacking out again. I'm just thinking to myself the whole time, don't pass out, don't leave customers when you're serving them. Well, the next thing I know, I'm waking up on the floor with about 4 people around me, including the manager. I can hear a customer saying she's a nurse and running up to me, trying to tell them what to do. When I come back around, I'm escorted through the kitchen to the crew room, and I get to go home early, leaving them even more understaffed and struggling. Before I left, I can hear the manager loudly telling the shift supervisor, I didn't know she was really going to black out. After what happened, I stopped being scheduled on the busier shifts, and I got to go home early whenever I needed to. Yeah, that was the least they could do for OP, on top of an apology, which I really hope she got from the manager, because that could have gone horribly, right? I also hope that manager got a talking to or something, because not taking your staff seriously when they say they might black out is kind of a serious issue. I don't know though, guys, let me know your thoughts. How would you respond if a boss forced you to keep working and you ended up blacking out? Like, is that grounds for a lawsuit or something? I have no idea. So, from the age of 16 to 20, I worked at a 24-hour fast food joint. After having worked there for so long, I was very good at what I did, to the point that I could handle the entire store by myself as long as I needed, with little to no drops in customer satisfaction or speed. When I was 19 years old, my grandfather got sick, which was really hard because I loved him to bits. My boss and I were close, so we worked out a deal where he would schedule me a ton and I would essentially be on call for any time he needed someone to cover a shift. I would also work a double shift on Monday, the busiest day of the week. I worked so much that it resulted in me getting around 10 to 15 hours of overtime per week, sometimes more. This actually saved him money, because one guy working for $17 an hour at time and a half was way cheaper than paying 3 guys $15 an hour to do the same work, allowing him to make way bigger profits. This also allowed him more leeway and rep with corporate, meaning he would get bigger bonuses. He said that he could give me a raise after around 6 months, citing how well I worked. The other part was that I got a week off a month to visit my grandfather and assist him with his care or anything else he needed. Our agreement went on for a year before he was promoted to regional manager, which was a big jump. He got the promotion because our store was making like 15% more than the next highest performer, while being in a less traveled area. Now, the new manager who took over for him was a piece of crap. My manager told him our deal and he scoffed, and he said it was dumb because of how much overtime he'd be paying me. He just shrugged, because even if the store's performance dropped, he would just look even better as he's saving money. And so, my hours were lowered to like 30 hours per week. But here's the thing, the guy was still calling me in and scheduling me for solo 8 hours and double shifts, so I was working crap hours, but getting paid way less. The guy also denied me time off, so I couldn't see my grandfather. So I quit, and the guy soon realizes how effed he was. I heard from my old boss that the store's profits actually dropped 15% lower than the next lowest store in the region. The new boss was fired shortly after for somehow dropping 125% in profits, and the guy actually tried to blame it all on me for quitting. Nothing fancy, all I did was put in my 2-week notice, but I thought it was a funny story to share. Another classic example of people not leaving jobs, but leaving bad bosses, guys. And what an a-hole move, trying to blame everything on one single employee quitting. I only wish a lot of managers would understand that if something's not broken, don't fix it. But there's way too many managers that are entitled and arrogant and feel the need to reinvent the wheel to try to look good for the higher-ups. And this is what I've learned from reading a lot of posts, guys. It's that a lot of them don't last very long. So when I was an undergrad and looking for a job, a family friend told me about this position at a large store that was looking for dock workers. The store sells clothing, furniture, makeup, etc. It's a large chain, and I'm sure most people have heard of it. The job works great for me. Good hours that work for school, good pay, and good coworkers. About 6 months after I got there, the dock supervisor, who's my direct manager, leaves, and I'm asked if I'd like the job. I tell the store manager and the operations manager that I'm willing to do it as long as we make it work with my school schedule. They're fine with it because they both like me and they know the other guys like me and know there won't be any issues. So about 2 years go by and the store manager gets promoted to a job at corporate. I start to hear about this woman taking his place and it makes me a little bit uneasy. So I call the dock manager, where the new boss had previously been a department manager, and he gives me the rundown. Everything I'd heard about her being two-faced, a backstabber, a ladder climber is confirmed. So I let all my dock guys know if there's ever any issues to let me know. We do lots of support for the store, floor moves, running out merchandise, etc. But certain departments thought that we only worked for them, and we've had issues with these managers in the past. Now, I wasn't afraid, because I was fighting for my guys, and I knew that the store manager and the operations manager had my back because they saw how hard we worked. So the new store manager, who let's call Karen, comes in. And from the first meeting, she starts to try to run things differently than the company says. A few days later, she wants a meeting with me to go over new operations. The meeting went about as well as you'd think. Now, at work, my guys wear jeans, running shoes, and polo shirts. We're on our feet all day, unloading trucks, doing moves, all the physical stuff that most people don't see. Karen tells me there is a new dress code, that my guys will be wearing cheap t-shirts with the company logo on them, that we have to pay for. I start to laugh, and I didn't share my amusement. I then go to our operations manager, and he says he'll take care of it. Fast forward 6 months, and Karen's on a roll. She's trying to make my guys come in at night to do inventory, something the sales staff does, and she's trying to cut hours every quarter. She's also taking shots at my workers in meetings, and making us give priority to the departments that she considers important. Now at this point, I've got 1 semester of school left, and I let my guys know that I'm going to quit. At the beginning of the year, I take both my weeks of paid vacation. During this time, I had told my guys if they were going to quit, that they should put in their 2 weeks while I was gone. Of the 5 that worked for me, 3 put in theirs. I also find out that my operations manager is leaving for a better job. He was the buffer zone that kept us safe, so I know I'm doing the right thing. Well, the day I get back, I have a meeting with Karen, and I put in my 2 weeks, and predictably, she flips out. At this point, she's losing the majority of people who do all the hard work. And with me and the operations manager leaving, she has to interview all the new hires. I then start hearing rumors from some managers I'm friends with that she's going to try to get me fired so they wouldn't have to pay me my sick pay. So I decided to add a little something extra to my exit interview. The day before I'm supposed to quit, she calls me into her office and she loses it on me. She goes off for about 30 minutes how I'm worthless and so are my guys. She's trying to get me to quit early so I wouldn't get my sick pay, but that doesn't work. So the next day, I go in for my exit interview and I spring the surprise on her. Here's something she doesn't know. The family friend at the beginning of the story who told me about the job just so happens to be the 3rd highest ranking person in the company. The 2 people above him are the kids of the founder. I had let him know when I put in my 2 weeks, and I told him why. He wasn't familiar with the new store manager, but he said he'd look into her. I had called him right after she tried to fire me on my 2nd to last day, and I told him what happened. That combined with what he'd heard from the others about Karen helped him make a decision. He told me to text him 5 minutes before I went in for my exit interview, and told me that he would be calling her during the interview so I could give my side of the story. So I send the text, and I go in, and Karen starts putting me down. The woman starts personally insulting me, and telling me how I'll never go anywhere, blah blah blah. Just doing all the things someone like her does until her phone rings. She ignores it the first 2 times until her secretary comes in and says it's an emergency. She then picks up the phone, and I wish I had a framed picture of her face when the color just drains from her face and her jaw dropped. She puts the phone on speaker, and I start to have a conversation with my friend. He's asking me why I'm leaving. I give him a reason, and I also tell him that several of my guys have also quit. It turns out she hasn't informed anyone of this. For about 20 minutes, he just asked me questions, like what's going on at the store, why is there so much turnover, etc. And I outright tell him that Karen shouldn't be in this position. All the while, she's turning red with rage and biting her lip, so she won't go off on one of the highest ranking people in the company. After I tell him everything, I tell him I think we're done with my exit interview, and he tells Karen to expect a call tomorrow and then hangs up. She then calls security to escort me out, and I go home. I find out later that she's been demoted from store manager to sales associate at a lower performing store. She was fired not too long after that for not meeting numbers. And that was well deserved. And seriously, there is nothing more demeaning than getting demoted, forced to grind it out at a low-performing store, and then getting fired for not meeting the numbers. Like the person who demoted her knew exactly what they were doing. And I just want to add that people like her don't deserve good jobs, and it's honestly surprising how horribly incompetent people get promoted so often. This happened a few years ago, but the story appears to be a good match, so I'm sharing. I was one of 2 commercial writers/producers working in the production department of a local television station. Our department was responsible for both producing the newscasts and commercials for clients who purchased airtime on our station. Now, this department is high stress, and I had to manage multiple deadlines and provide creatives for about a dozen ad campaigns every month. That being said, I always met my deadlines, and our sales department was always complimentary of my work, steering the more important clients my way. Unfortunately, the managers in my department came and went with unsettling frequency. In the 9 years I was there, I had 6 different managers. Most often, the managers were passing through, with their sights set on snagging upper-level management jobs in larger television markets. This meant that their experience actually doing the work of television production was often minimal, so they had the tendency to not interfere with our work, as long as clients were happy and deadlines were being met. Given the managers were so disengaged, I told our general sales manager about my idea for saving time and money in the department. That's when he suggested that I apply for the production manager position the next time it opened up. So I did, and I didn't get the job. I was told that I was too important maintaining good client relationships through my work as a producer, which is no big deal, I thought. I was happy as a producer. Unfortunately, the person they did hire for the position ends up being a monumental a-hole of the first order. I'll call him Bob. The first thing Bob wanted to know was who in the department had applied for his position that he now filled. I don't know what idiot in upper management thought it would be a good idea to tell him, but someone did. It soon became apparent that he wanted to find any excuse he could to fire me, because that was the kind of insecure idiot he was. He literally thought if he got rid of me, he could ride the job until retirement. So with that, he starts picking on me relentlessly, trying to get me out. It began by him complaining about the time I was taking to complete commercial productions. He then accuses me of undercharging clients in my billing. The guy also wanted me to wear a suit and tie, which he knew I hated. As the writing on the wall became clear, I began documenting every single interaction with him, just taking notes of what was said and then contradicting his accusations with the facts. All the while, he's managing to piss off a whole lot of people in our department, and morale really began to tank. Bob was petty, vain, and he loved to brag about things, like announcing how lavish and wonderful of a vacation he was planning would be. The guy was going to Aruba, so he put up several travel posters and printed out a ridiculous sign that he taped to his office door that said something like, "My grand island adventure begins in 2 weeks." All of this served to remind us that he was the only one in our department who made enough money to take that kind of vacation. Eventually, an incident occurred where I missed my deadline through no fault of my own. The client wanted to change some things last minute, and we had to bump the film shoot. Somehow, Bob gets it in his head that I should have been a mind reader and anticipated the client's wishes before they were communicated. So with that, he calls me into his office and he begins loudly berating me and threatening me, calling me stupid and useless, and at that point, I had enough. I'm the kind of person who will take a lot of crap with patience and grace, but when I'm finally pushed to my boiling point, I effing explode. I start yelling back at Bob saying, "You're an effing liar, and if you think that I don't know how to handle this client, then fine, let me see you effing do it because I'm out of here." And then I walked off the job. I'm so amped up by what just transpired after leaving the office that I walk all the way home, a distance of more than 6 miles. Just as I'm nearing my house, my cell phone rings, and it's Bob. Evidently, it just dawned on him that he would have to produce the ad campaign himself because the other producer had the week off. He hemmed and hawed and finally blurts out something that was quite revealing. He says to me, "Please, you have to come back. If we lose this client, we'll both get fired, and I can't afford to lose another job. Hearing him say that, I think to myself, really? So you've been fired from all your other jobs? What a surprise. That's when I tell him to go F himself because I'm not taking his crap for one more minute. All the while, I'm literally trembling with the knowledge that I've walked off the job without another job to go to, and I have a wife and 2 kids to support. Thankfully, the next call I get is from the general sales manager. You know, the guy who recommended I apply for Bob's job, resulting in this whole crap storm. By now, the news of my blow up evidently made it back to him. He asks me what happened, and I fill him in, and I apologize for walking off the job, while also telling him that there's no way I'm working for Bob. He then says to me, yeah, quitting on the spot wasn't a good idea, so do me a favor and come back. Email me all the details of what happened, and I'll see what I can do. Thanks to my copious note-taking of all my interactions with Bob, it takes me no time at all to send him the complete history of everything Bob's done. So I return, hoping to avoid Bob. Thankfully, the guy's door was closed, and I keep my head down in my cubicle. A half hour before the workday was done, I notice our GM and a security guard getting off the elevator together. I stand up to see where they're headed, and I'm elated to see that it's directly towards Bob's office. And what transpires is better than what I could have imagined. Bob emerges from his office, carrying a box of his belongings, including the rolled-up Aruba travel poster. He's being escorted by the security guard to the elevator. I'm now standing up in my cubicle, and he turns to me, his face beet red with embarrassment. As our eyes meet, I flash an ear-to-ear grin. The idiot is gone. There is nothing more satisfying than a nasty boss who's trying to get someone fired, only to have it backfire on him so hard. And guys, the only thing that would have made this even more satisfying is if OP added insult to injury and told Bob to have a great time in Aruba as he was being walked out. And I'm really wondering if he even went on that trip. Like, I know for a fact that I wouldn't be able to enjoy my grand planned vacation knowing that I was fired. Again, some people need to learn that it's never a good idea to mess with the golden goose. And Bob's insecurity led to his downfall. Like, who cares who was applying for your job? You got the position. Why waste time and effort trying to get rid of that person? All that said though, it really sucks for OP. Like, imagine being so good at your job that you can't get promoted. So I'm a 29-year-old female, and I work in an office, and I have a boss who routinely makes fun of vegans. Now, I'm a vegan myself, and I never make a fuss about food. I go to the same restaurants as my coworkers during lunch hour, and I can always find myself something to eat without announcing my dietary choices. My boss keeps calling me out on it though, and she's very condescending about it. She keeps saying that I'm having a phase, and she keeps offering me bites of her lunch that contain cheese and meat. And when I refuse, she just goes, "Oh, come on, it's vegan, I promise." It's very childish and annoying, and even other people have asked her to tone it down. But she just insists that she's joking. Well, last week, she brings a homemade cake to the office for her birthday. And when she puts a slice down in front of me, I politely thanked her but said I can't eat that. She then told me the cake is vegan and she made it specifically so I could eat it. But knowing her very loose definition of vegan, I thanked her again, but I refused the slice. She then makes a big scene out of it, saying that she wanted to do something nice for me, and now I ruined her birthday. My colleagues told me not to mind her dramatics, but my boss told me that it was her birthday, and I could have given her cooking the benefit of the doubt. Now I sort of see the point, but I also feel like I don't need to justify my food choices to anyone. And I never asked her to make the cake vegan for me. So am I the a-hole for not having a slice of cake? Yeah, so from everything that OP said in their post about their boss, they're definitely not the a-hole for denying that slice of birthday cake. Like, again, just from reading the post and how OP says she doesn't take her seriously, I have a sneaking suspicion that Boss Lady was waiting for OP to eat the slice to say they enjoyed it, only for her to then go, "Ha! I tricked you." in my personal opinion, her cake was probably as vegan as a triple bacon cheeseburger. Like, who knows, guys? Maybe I'm too wary because of all the entitled stories I've read where people think allergies and intolerances are fake, but again, that's what I think. I'd also suggest for OP to take it one step further, like if the boss is really harassing OP, which it clearly seems they are, to take it to HR. Like, nobody should be forced to eat what they don't want to eat, and OP's boss is being way over the top. Guys, let me know what your thoughts are. Who's being nice and eating that cake? And if I were in OP's shoes, I wouldn't eat that cake at all, guys. Not because of the fact that it might contain dairy and eggs, but for the single fact that if I don't like a person, I'm not eating anything they ever make. That's just me though. Again, leave your thoughts. And that, my friends, brings us to another end of our entitled people. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that thumbs up. And if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, it's an r/malicious compliance episode where bad bosses are getting absolutely destroyed. So if you enjoyed this one, go check that one out. And myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.